Perception is based on one's external surroundings. The big question is, do surroundings affect perception to the greatest extent? The relevance of this topic stems from the connection it has to the real world. Perception is quite literally everywhere, and all individuals perceive the surrounding people or events. Perception is the way those surroundings are interpreted, which in turn affects the individual's words or actions. The connection to the first stimulus is Attitudes Towards Muslim Women in the West by Leila Abu-Luko, an American professor of women's and gender studies at the University of Columbia. The political tension between the Middle East and America have created the Western notion that a Muslim woman needs saving. This connection shows how the political situation affects the perception of others. The second stimulus is Sense and Sensibility, a molecular logic of olfactory perception. In this, Axel Richards, molecular biologist and neuroscientist professor at Columbia University, states how every individual senses the same thing in the environment differently. And this shows how individuals can perceive the same thing in surroundings as different by using their senses. First, the political setting and political views surrounding an individual influence the person's personal political views. First, during the Spanish Civil War, the conflict between the nationalist want for totalitarian or a dictator government and the Republican views clashed. This led to the Spanish Massacre, where thousands of Spanish Republicans were killed by Spanish nationalists. This was due to the nationalist political beliefs influencing the nationalist leaders and the other national supporters to take this drastic step. Another example is the 2016 political US presidential election. According to Massimo Calabresi, an Italian journalist, Russia used algorithmic techniques to target social media accounts of certain people, and they used those targets to send propaganda to. This propaganda represents the stance that Russia has on the US presidential election, which in turn could sway the original personal stance that the individual had during that election. Second, the sensory perception using the five senses is unique and is affected by the surroundings. First, a person with synesthesia has overlaps in sensory perception due to the activation of one sense leading to the stimulus of another sense. Someone affected by synesthesia has their senses collide dramatically to form a kaleidoscope world, according to Lena Broeker, an investigative journalist in her article for Scientific American. These individuals quite literally hear colors and smell sounds. A person with this still uses their senses to perceive, but their perception of the environment would be different than a person without synesthesia. Another example of sensory perception involves exteroception, in which an outside stimulus creates an internal body response. In the American Journal for Drug and Alcohol Abuse, Samuel Dewitt of the Center for Brain Health at UT Dallas found that exteroception involved processes related to the perception of environmental stimuli, which is important for adapting to the environment. For example, touching a hot pan and jerking the hand back is a result of exteroception used to create a reflex arch, according to Campo Biology in Focus textbook. The body perceives the external conditions to determine the internal reactions. Third, popular societal views also influence personal views. The social network influence theory is a theory that focuses on the influence of interpersonal agreements and group consensus. According to Noah E. Fredkin, professor of sociology at the University of California, Santa Barbara, the theory lets an individual see how social networks provide the opportunity for others to influence personal beliefs on a certain topic. Second, social media's influence. Social media also has a large influence on the perception by being able to share popular societal views at a quicker rate. A form of sharing involving social media is blogs. Chen Long-Su of the Department of Information Management at Dalian University at Taiwan found that perceived ease of use and perceived usefulness, PU and PE, determine the behavioral intention, BI, to use that information. determined based on whether the individual perceives that the information is to agree or disagree. The blog is part of the individual's cyber environment, which means that it has the ability to affect their own personal views. My conclusion is that individual point of views are most permanently and prominently influenced by their surroundings. That means that includes the people that are around them, that they talk to every day, the events that they hear about, and even the words that they hear from a random stranger on the street. The limitations of my argument are all popular beliefs are not accepted by every person in society. For example, a popular belief in society might be that chocolate is good for you, but an unpopular belief could be that chocolate is bad for you. Another limitation is every individual lives in a different surrounding. Everyone has different people surrounding them, different views surrounding them, and it affects the perceptions of the individual to be affected. The implication is that the individual isn't isolated. It is assumed that the individual has interactions with other human beings in order to establish the connectivity that leads to the influencing of their original perception. Also, it is assumed that most individuals have access to modern resources such as technology and the internet, so that that connectivity is also present in order to enhance the influence. And these are my work cited. Thank you.
Let me ask you a couple of questions. All right, so, how did you handle the different perspectives in order to reach a conclusion?
I handled the different perspectives by trying to find ties that tie them together. For example, my scientific and my social, they both had different perceptions, and that led to a similar perception. And this helped me because it helped me create a connection between all my points by finding evidence and journals that had the different point of views inside that one source.
Okay. So, what advice would you give somebody else who was considering this topic?
The advice I would give them is to make sure you research every single perspective that is there on this topic, because perception is a very broad topic. So you would have to go more specific because of how broad and general it is in order to find a way to make an impact with the topic.
All right. Okay, thank you, ma'am.